Joining me now is one of the minority of governors who says Syrian refugees are still welcome in his state, Democratic Governor Malloy of Connecticut. And Governor, I understand you were on a conference call between the White House and governors today on this issue. What was that call like?
It was interesting. First of all, the administration did a very good job of explaining the process and procedures on how people are allowed to come into our country as a refugee. Let me give you a couple of statistics. Since 2011, 23,043 people have been recommended by the UN to be considered for coming to the United States from Syria. 7,000 of those, after review, were found to be acceptable for a next stage of review. Of that 7,000, 2,000 have made it to the United States thus far. And many of those folks are in states like Florida and Texas and elsewhere, and Connecticut for that matter. We're talking about a tiny fraction of people. Let me give you a statistic. Since 2004 through 2014, according to the Government Accountability Report, we sold 2,042 guns to people who are on the terrorism watch list. Why? Because the NRA has prevented us from adding people on the watch list as ineligible to buy guns in the United States. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let me give you another statistic. 30,000 people in America are going to die as a result of gun violence. And yet, those same governors who came out today and said we shouldn't take refugees are the same governors who oppose common sense gun control laws in America. Why don't we have universal background checks? If a Syrian can't get on a plane to fly someplace in the world or to the United States without a background check, why do we sell guns to people without a background check if we're so fearful about what's going to happen?
Governor, it comes down, it seems to me, about confidence in the vetting procedure that's in place, and it seems that there's either a combination of good faith distrust of that system or bad faith demagoguery, frankly, in this wave of governors. What do you think is at play?
Or people who just haven't bothered to understand what the process is. We have the toughest process in the world about allowing refugees into our country. That's the reality. That's the standard we hold ourselves to. And by the way, let's be very clear. No one's taken a raft from Turkey to get to the United States. We control this situation to a higher degree than any European country can at the current moment. And we have different procedures even at our airports and with respect to passports and with respect to visas than are present in Europe. We are well protected. And by the way, I just gave you the numbers, 23,000 to 7,000 for review to only 2,000 since 2011 entered into this country. And a bunch of those folks had been victims of rape, had been victims of political oppression, had been our allies in the goings-on in that area. That's why we brought them to this country, so that they wouldn't be killed because they were our allies. What, are we going to turn our back on these folks?
Do you think you can sell the voters of your state on this, or is this going to create real political problems for you?
No, listen, I think this is, the American people are generous people, and they understand what's written on the Statute of Liberty. Give us your poor, you're tired, you're weary. They understand that. We'll return to this common sense situation, but a bunch of governors got ahead of themselves, didn't bother to do their homework, didn't bother to understand what's going on even in their own states, and how hard this process is, and they jumped on a political bandwagon. And quite frankly, they're going to win that argument for a while. People are going to think, hey, that's great. Let's really be tough on people. Here's a question. If most of these folks who attacked in Paris were French and Belgians, why would we allow French and Belgian people in our country, or any other country that has a problem? The reality is what they're trying to do is say, this is a very small segment of people. We can pick on them relatively easily, and we can make our political point. And by the way, that's what terrorists want. They want us to stop being Americans. They want us to stop believing in liberty and in freedom. They want to be able to go back to where they're from and say, see, Americans didn't really mean that they were an open society. They really don't mean that they're going to treat our people the same way as they treat everybody else. They're going to single us out one way or the other.
All right, Governor Malloy, Connecticut. Great. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.